Don't be ashamed to learn things that you need to know. Here's Sexplanations with Dr. Doe.
Sexplanations podcast, episode 24. I'm here with my dear friend Erik Berke, and we are going to answer your sex questions from the 5th and 6th Ask Lindsey videos. Hi, Erik. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Lindsey?
I'm well.
Yay.
Yay. We were just talking about how much pain I am in from cross-country skiing, but other than that, fantastic.
Nice. I've yet to go skiing, so I'm feeling great on the pain ski level.
Good. I'm really glad that you're here because I enjoy talking to you in general, and, you know, sex is a subject I love, so let's do this.
All right.
Ready?
Yeah, ready.
Yeah. All right. Before we start, though, I want to give a shout out to Laura Schuster, Donna Flint, Paul Nixon, and the Millers. They support Sexplanations podcast at the boss level. And so every episode we do a question in their honor. But since we're going to do all sorts of questions, this whole episode is in their honor.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Here's to you.
Yeah. Thanks, friends. First question. Referring to the dry humping video, so if you haven't seen it, I basically hump all sorts of things, but I'm using a phallus, this wooden toy, and I'm putting it in my armpit and behind my knee, and then talk about like, between the breasts and butt cheeks and the neck, like if you turn your head so that the ear is closer to the shoulder. And this person is wondering, since they're all male pleasure focused with a penis involved, what would vagina options be for dry humping? Like, how could a vulva get off dry humping? I'm just throwing you right in there.
Yeah, throwing right
Good
in
luck.
there. Well, I'll just have to think about my vulva, which is pretty absent.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing that comes to mind right off the bat is any sort, I mean, I'm just thinking of like vibrations and sound and speakers and whatnot.
Oh.
Heavy bass, but that
Dry
might be
humping speakers?
That might be in a different realm. Yeah, I mean, you'd have to have some music in there going.
Thighs, knees.
Yeah, thighs.
Like you can basically rub a vulva on all the same parts that you could rub penis on.
Yeah. I mean, any sort of straddling, I think, is kind of your position of choice there.
Pelvis.
Maybe pelvis, yeah.
Face. I
mean, even though those were male, traditional male dominated areas or dry humping there, it's still, I don't know, when I start thinking about it, it's still pretty synonymous to a female as well. I mean, anywhere you can find, pleasure in just the dry humping or rubbing any of those excitable areas.
Yeah.
You'll be sitting pretty.
High five from across the room. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Next question. How to get a woman?
Oh, okay. How to get a woman. First is there's just a little law of attraction there. Man, that's a tough one.
How do you get women,
Story
Erik?
of my life.
Because we've known each other since when we were 18?
Yeah.
We went to college together. We would hang out in each other's dorm rooms. You really liked the game Rummy or Pinochle? Which one was it?
I mean, I like both of those games, but
Aw.
Yeah, how to get a woman, that's a pretty loaded question.
True. Yes. It's like acquisition of a fish. And I
mean, I think initially, you got to go out there, be honest with them, or just be presentable and try to not be super nervous or think about it too much. Kind of see what they like, see what they like. Let them talk, put them in a position where they can be themselves around you. And
Erik, that's so amazing.
Once you do that, you'll either want to be around him more or you want to get out of there. But I think that's a good foundation for possible future.
I'm swooning right now. I love the idea of giving them space to be their full selves so that you can decide whether or not you want to continue being with them. And hopefully you're doing the same, right? Like how you said, you're presenting yourself, you're putting yourself out there. And so really it's just the math of if you have your muchness and they have their muchness, are they still attracted to each other?
Right, yeah. And that's a very idealistic, it's certainly easier said than done. But in my experience, I guess if that natural existence is there and that natural harmony of both of you and in your respected selves are getting along, it'll be much more natural and harmonious and just overall beautiful.
Aww. How do you pick up the ladies? This is not one of their questions, but
Yeah,
I'm just curious. What are your go-to pickup lines?
I don't really have any go-to pickup lines, but I mean, certainly you want to just make them laugh. Everybody loves laughing, and if you can make people laugh, they're going to want to stick around you for a while. And that'll buy you some time, I guess.
What's your favorite joke?
Oh, man.
Have you heard
Jokes are always hard to do on the spot like that.
Do you know the Mario one?
I do know the Mario one.
Yeah, that's my
For
go-to.
all you who don't know the Mario joke,
What kind of pants does Mario wear?
yeah, denim, denim, denim. It's a pretty good one.
Yep. I can't. Yeah, jokes on the spot are really tricky. Who's your favorite comedian?
Also difficult.
Do you like Brian Regan?
I don't know if I know who Brian Regan is. Oh, gasps in the room.
I am going to introduce you. He's so lovely. He's really clean.
Yeah.
So I've heard that the people in Utah really like him because he
Okay.
doesn't swear.
Makes sense.
There's very little self-deprecation or shunning of other people. It's just funny.
Yeah. My favorite comedians are, like I like her comedy, I guess, is, I'm not super into like raunchy shock humor.
No Jim Jeffries for you?
Not really.
Yeah.
Anything that can be clean and that's hilarious has such a larger staying power
Right.
than something that just shocks you. Like, everyone's going to look at a car accident if you drive by it, but no one's like, man, let's all think about that car accident again.
Yeah. Keep the car intact and just
Yeah.
make it beautiful.
So a joke about a car that's just driving, it's funnier.
Yeah. 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 All right.
I don't know either jokes related to those two situations, but
If you have one, let us know in
I
the
will.
comments. Have you read and do you have an opinion on Mary Roach's book, Bonk?
no, I have not read it. So follow up to that is unfortunately not.
But we were talking about this earlier.
We
You
were.
think it should have a name change?
I think it should. Yeah, I asked Lindsay what this book was about, and
And I said
can't.
sex.
Yeah, sex, and I was like, they really should just name it Bonk. I feel would be a more appropriate title. I'm sorry for all of you who have read this book and know that I'm drastically wrong.
Same here. I have yet to read the book, even though I was initially asked this question 4 years ago. Moving on, I would love for you to go more in depth on the Harmful to Minors book idea. So that's another book, which I have read, called Harmful to Minors. The premise is that there's one group that believes by providing comprehensive sex education, we are abusing our children. We're sexually abusing our children. And this is in contrast to another group that really believes that by withholding that information or misinforming kids by saying that they'll get STIs from using condoms is harmful to minors. So this person says, what is appropriate and why? What information is missing and what does this do to them? How candid should we be? So basically, how candid should we be with kiddos about sexuality?
About, sexuality. I mean, anytime you're withholding information from somebody, usually the outcome is not good. Mm-hmm. Has been my experience. And like a little background on myself, my mom was an educator.
She is an educator.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Your mom
my
teaches sex.
health, sex ed, all that. So, I mean, growing up, I felt like I got a lot of exposure to it. Mm-hmm. And, I could ask my mom, but I'm sure I don't even need to ask her, but, her approach, she was informing me and, it was very, very open. And, I remember being a kid. I can't tell you how old I was, but I mean, I remember putting condoms on the garden hose and like blowing them up in the yard.
That's awesome. Do you feel like it harmed you at all?
No.
Oh, see?
Yeah, definitely not at all.
Do you think that there are circumstances where that kind of education would be harmful to kiddos?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a point where the maturity of the child or kid, there is a stage where it is probably too early. Mm-hmm. That's a tough judgment call, it's all reality. It's the parent's call, I guess. But as a detrimental outcome, I mean, I think the only thing that would come to mind right now would be if by exposing them to that information or whatever that you're teaching them, that information leads to like wrongful experimentation. Harmful experimentation that would only happen when the children or the kids, the subjects don't realize like the full consequences of those like experiments, I guess, or experimentation, such as like STIs or emotional distress or something.
So finish the story is basically your thinking of like, if you're going to start it, at least explain the consequences and the comprehensive nature of what
repercussions or whatever. Yeah, it would be a full
disclosure.
Full disclosure.
I think the age appropriate thing is really interesting. My advice has usually been that if the child is asking about it, then you can respond and to just do that with the language that they have, or to give them a few new words, but you're not essentially putting them in front of a minute physics video and like, okay, here's why the sky is blue. You're just doing the quick version that they could handle, from their kindergarten teacher, something like that.
Yeah, you're certainly more of an expert on it than I am.
Well, Erik, send me your kids.
All right.
I'll help them out.
No problem. You might be waiting a while.
Forever. What kind of eyeliner do you use? Right?
Obviously, guy liner.
In what situation is it okay not to use a condom?
Any situation where the parties are consenting to that.
Oh, that's a brilliant answer.
That's like
you
the
nailed
only
it.
answer.
You win. You win the sex education life. Wow.
Marcia, it's my mom.
Smart lady.
Yeah. I mean, she didn't tell me that, but she raised me.
Yeah. I was thinking along the lines of, if you're willing to put yourself at risk for sexually transmitted infections or pregnancy or phthalates and toys, et cetera, but it's really not about that. It's about whether or not you consent to doing that, and the other person does as well, or people.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what you should be weighing in your head at that point when you're making that decision.
I like it, Erik. I like it. You're empowering the people.
Yeah.
How important is protection in lesbian sex?
Probably just as important anywhere else.
Yeah. I think my original answer was, it's as important as the lesbians you're protecting.
Yeah, nice. That's a good one.
Yeah, thanks. Do I really need to use a dental dam when hooking up, or is it just super precautionary? Do you know what a dental dam is?
I do know what a dental dam is.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you I've never used one.
You haven't?
No.
Oh.
I'm old.
What do you mean you're old? What does your age have anything to do with it?
Well, by the time that I probably saw a dental dam, I was well versed or beyond,
protecting your face.
Protecting my dental hood.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I mean, it probably is pretty important.
Yes. Yes, friends. There is no limit, no age limit to protecting your face or the other person's body. But you haven't used them.
Yeah, I haven't used them. And, my sexual activity now is like pretty monogamous. So
low risk.
Low risk. Yeah. Certainly I would be thinking more about it and probably using one if I was in a higher risk situation. Or, my partner or the people I were with were
like, hey, put that on me.
Use this. And I would be like, all right,
What are the barriers to using it for you? Why aren't you like, hey, let's put this on there?
Well, like I was saying now, super low risk.
You're all about getting up in there.
Yeah.
Just like,
yeah.
I don't need this barrier.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in all reality, that's my reason for not using one.
Alternate point of view for those of you listening. I think they're really great because they diffuse the sensation, so it kind of moves it out across the whole vulva that's being covered by the dam, and not just right where the tongue is lapping or the lips are or whatever. It goes across the whole thing. And I also think that for people who are self-conscious about their smell or taste or the other person's smell or taste, it's a really great way to put something in place so that you can still experience oral sex without those inhibitions. Boom. Also,
yeah, that makes sense.
Great for not spreading herpes.
Yeah.
And chlamydia and other
all
bugs
those
that go
things.
Mouth to genitals, genitals to mouth. Here's one for you. I'm only attracted to other girls, but recently I've realized that I want to kiss Harry Styles on the mouth. What does this mean?
It I mean, I'm taking it Harry Styles isn't gender female or whatever.
Harry Styles is One Direction.
Oh,
But
dreaming.
he's boy band. I don't know
Yeah.
which one. That's how old we are. Mm-hmm. I know that he has a third and maybe fourth nipple.
Sweet. I have 3 nipples too.
Yeah. So you're basically Harry Styles.
Yeah.
Okay, so if someone is a girl, it sounds like, and is attracted to other girls, but recently realized that they want to kiss Harry Styles in the mouth, what's going on there? What does it mean?
I mean, I think it just means that, I don't know, just the attraction and emotions and feelings are a hard thing to really pin down. It's hard to pin down your feelings. It's hard to tell other people why they're feeling what they are. But, you know, in that situation, I think you're just feeling another part of attraction. You know, like they were saying, historically, this person had been attracted to only females or other women. And now she's feeling a little bit a tug towards this Styles character. And it's certainly not wrong, or there doesn't mean like something's wrong, or your attractions, or you're switching what you're attracted to or anything. It's just, it could be a part of growth or anything, you know, emotional growth, or the way you view the world now and what you value and what you see, you know, constantly changes as you're growing older or taking different viewpoints on life. So the things that you're going to be attracted to are naturally going to change.
So wise.
And then you also, you know, there's also just like a physical primal attraction that doesn't have anything to do with your brain, I guess.
Yep.
But I don't know, a lot of what attraction is, I think, is, you know, people are attracted to smart people, funny people, you know.
Personalities.
Personalities, yeah.
So do you think there's going to be a time where we stop considering people's, and by we, I mean the whole population,
Right.
population is just going to stop worrying
know
about
what you're
what's
gonna ask
between
me.
their crotch and how they identify, and it's just going to be, I am attracted to you or I'm not, based on variables which have nothing to do with reproduction?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I think at some point that certainly will be a part of attraction initially, you know, and maybe that will change later when it gets into what we were saying, reproductive, or any, you know, what's between their legs, or what you're talking about. Yeah, I think there's certainly going to be a time, and some of that time may exist right now for some people, you know,
Yeah. Yep.
where I'll just call it initial attraction. Yeah, it could be for anything. Those
Well, and it is
personalities,
because
it is.
we usually don't know what's between someone's
Yeah, you
legs.
don't know, yeah. And whether that person is assuming what's between their legs, and that's part of their attraction, you know, I feel like that probably happens quite a bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if somebody, you know, to have attraction without an assumption like that, I think will probably happen at some point. Certainly happens now.
It happens now.
For
but
people,
we're,
yeah.
We're aiming for universal.
Yeah.
Yeah, my hypothesis is we're going to do external reproduction, so pod offspring
Sure.
rather than internal, and that we will eventually pair up, or it will be a poly community, but that will be based on other factors than penis, vagina, etc.
Right.
Oh, the future.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so that kind of relates to the next question. How do you envision sexuality changing in the next 50, 100, 1,000 years?
50 years, I think, is more. It's hard. More of an attainable thing to think about.
Think about the last 50 years, though. How much?
Right. I'll still be alive in 50 years.
You think?
Hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's possible.
We're 35.
Yep. I actually forgot how old I was the other day.
Oh, you sure you're going to make it
Yeah.
to another 50 years?
Well, yeah, if I forget how old I am, of course I'll make it another 50 years. But yeah, thinking about the last 50 years, how much has changed,
Cell phones, internet.
just the availability of information. Yeah, in the next 50 years, you'd hope, and I think that there will be so much just more acceptance and I'll use the word like fluidity amongst people in, you know, their genders and their sexual orientation or what, you know, whatever. And mainly amongst heteronormative people and other cultures. You know, I would like to see an acceptance of, like, across the board. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think in the next 50 years, I don't think in the next 100 years it will just be one large planet of alphabet soup,
Right.
But I think realistically and hopefully, and things that I would strive for is just the acceptance and non-discrimination of pretty much everybody, but specifically to this question, like any type of, sexual orientation or transgender or any of those.
Hot damn, Erik. Your answers are so thoughtful. I like them.
Got to think.
So
And
I'm
if
going
people think, maybe that can happen.
right? More education for all of you. This is what I wrote. Legal and respected companions, long textured, non-latex gloves, less body reconstruction and more language around man with a vulva, for instance. Zero rape, higher quality candid sex education. And then coming back to that idea that I don't even know if we'll be having sex in 50 years.
Right.
I envision these buttons in
Yeah.
our necks where you can push them and you'll have an orgasm.
Have you ever seen, it's a Woody Allen film where they have the orgasm ball that they pass around?
No.
Oh, man, it's pretty good.
Okay. You going to tell me any more about it? What is it called?
I don't know what it's called.
They pass the orgasm ball around.
Yeah, it's based in the future.
This is not the one where he's a sperm, is it?
No.
Okay.
Gosh, what is the name of this movie? If anyone else, I'm sure you can just look it up by that, the orgasm ball.
So that's how they're doing their orgasms, is that they're passing a physical object
I
around.
think there still is, traditional sex and whatnot involved. Mm-hmm. But I believe it's just to be kind of like from what I remember, it's just like almost like a party drug.
Oh.
Like they
Interesting.
pass it around. And in this scene that I'm describing, Woody Allen plays in this movie, and he is masquerading as maybe like a robot butler or like a robot servant.
Okay.
And he has to pass the ball around to everybody. So he's getting a lot of doses from the orgasm ball. But yes, remind me later about this and we'll source this out.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what other takes there are in it. Okay. I've always been confused by terminology. Is transvestite the same as a drag queen?
I'm gonna say I hear your question loud and clear. And I'm just gonna say it's not. But
Right.
yeah, it's not. I don't know what the answer is. I know the answer is no, but I can't delineate between the difference between them.
The way that I would describe it is that people who might identify as transvestite or have what the DSM used to call transvestic fetishism, I don't know the language right now, is that they're doing it for sexual arousal, right? They're wearing the clothes of another sex or gender to turn themselves on. Whereas a drag king or queen or faux king or faux queen is doing that as a performance piece.
It's like that makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess I could have answered that.
Their pleasure, someone else's pleasure. Every time I tell someone I'm pansexual, they say, isn't that the same thing as being bisexual? I think they want us to
Elaborate
delineate
between the difference.
Yeah. You have thoughts there? Do you know anyone who identifies as pan?
Not off the top of my head, no.
No.
I mean, I can take a guess at what it means. I'm not sure.
So pan is someone who does not, it doesn't matter really what the person's gender is in their sexual orientation. Pan being all gender,
Everything.
Everyone is equal, up for sexual attraction. Bi has typically referred to males and females, but because we're trying to move away from a binary system, people who identify as bisexual might instead refer to people of the same sex or people of another sex.
Right.
And so they can be used interchangeably.
Right.
But it really depends on that person's preference.
Yeah. So like traditionally speaking, bisexual would be just you're going between our, whatever the world's male and female, heteronormative, I guess, systems.
Cisnormative, yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of terms that I've had to remember and use correctly.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Yeah. And then pan is, when all those lines get a little melded, with, your intrasexed, your
Trans,
non-binary,
non-binary. And bi now can also be synonymous with pan in that it's referring to the two as in someone like you and someone
Right.
unlike you. Okay, so next question. Are there sex toys for men?
Yes.
Yeah.
There
yes.
are.
Yes. Any that you like in particular? Have you used any sex toys for men?
You know, not a ton. I would say none specific for men, you know. Just, you know, in the bedroom or whatever. Female-specific sex toys aren't really female-specific. You know, you're talking about vibrators or dildos or anything like that, you know. But certainly...
Well, you're also, if you're playing with
Yeah.
the person who has that toy that might be designed for their body, you are also playing with that toy.
Right. So I guess to answer that question, or I can't remember which question you just asked.
Are there sex toys for men?
Oh, yeah.
And which ones do you like or would you recommend?
I think any sex toy that is going to be useful or compatible or playable with, you know, all parties involved are the best ones. So if it's two men playing with that whatever toy, and that, I mean, specifically speaking, related to the question, you know, like, yeah, say a vibrator or a dildo or, you know, like I'm just going to call it a pocket pussy, but I don't know what else to call it. I'm sure there's some other name.
Fifis, artificial vaginas.
Yeah, those are much more sounding better.
Yeah, it's tricky to name those because pussy and vagina both imply that it's that vaginal orifice when it could be a mouth or it could be an anus or it could just be a sheath that the person is fucking themselves with.
Right.
Have you seen the DIY's dildo video we did on Sexplanations came after the toy vaginas. Have you seen toy vaginas? Oh, Erik, it's so entertaining.
I don't think so.
You got to watch it. You can make a fifi out of a glove.
I could see that.
Where you blow it up and you essentially turn it into these two butt cheeks. I'm excited. I'm excited for you to see this.
All right, yeah, I'm
and try
excited
them out.
too.
My favorite was, what did I do? I took a glass and then I took 2 sponges, which you could moisten with warm water. And you wrap a rubber band around them. And then I put bubble wrap in between the sponges. So the sponges kind of make the pressure of the tissue that's inside an orifice. The bubble wrap kind of made that smooth texture. And then you put that into a glass to kind of hold its shape. And then you can penetrate it.
Yeah.
I know I'm doing a terrible job of describing it right now.
No,
but if you watch the video or if you do it, so good.
Right.
I just fingered it and I thought, yep, that's similar.
That'll work.
It'll do. Let's see. Scientific term for not being able to label yourself?
Other. Miscellaneous. I don't know. Scientific term,
There's one that I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
Pomosexual, P-O-M-O, which is short for postmodern. And that's referring to people who reject, avoid, or don't fit into any sexual orientation or label. But it's interesting to me that we're looking for a label for people who don't want labels.
Right. It just, I mean, try to use the word anarchy in there, or what's the other? It reminds me of like anarchy and atheism. So I'm sure there's some Latin rooted word in there.
Because the prefix a is meaning without. So a label.
Man, let's think of this and just coin it right now.
I tried to come up with something. I think I said ineffable. I said a label because the prefix
no, there you go.
A means without. So without a label. Okay, there are 2 more questions I have for you. But before I do that, we're going to do some group kegels.
Feel your kegels if you're able. Main squeeze.
Or kegels, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I'm going to read this plug from Fun Kit Toys because they're really amazing and they've sponsored a handful of episodes here. They have just been really awesome in terms of supporting Sexplanations and making sure that there's a product out there that's body friendly and pretty. They're so pretty. So while we do that, while I read it, you can just work your PCs. Just squeeze them, relax them, and squeeze them and relax them. Just give a steady beat to yourself. I'm going to read. Here we go. Fun Kit Toys makes body-safe modular experiments in platinum silicone with a new toy every month. There's always more ways to play. Use one toy as a handle or attach a bullet vibe holder. Stick two together for a double-ended toy. Fun Kit Toys are designed to anatomy regardless of gender and come in up to 6 hand-mixed colors as unique as you are. I mean, that's what I have on them, but there's so much more to say. So Fun Kit Toys is actually sending me 50-something handmade paddles that they designed.
Interesting.
Are you still doing your Kegels?
Yeah, I was still doing my Kegels.
And
Sorry.
they engraved Stay Curious on them, which is so
Oh.
cool. I know I get to send them to our Patreon people. They also make plugs and, the attachments that they're talking about where you can stick things together and you can put different beads and strands of rainbow colored silicone inside of them.
It's like the Voltron of sex toys.
Tell me what that means to you.
Well, Voltron was a cartoon character.
Do I not know Voltron? Am I
you
not
gotta
a
know.
true child of the 80s?
No, you are.
Was it the 80s or the 90s?
Probably a little bit of both.
Okay. Voltron is a cartoon?
Cartoon character when all the little pieces would come together and they would form Voltron when they had to really lay the law down. So it was like
Captain Planet?
very similar, except they all had Captain Planet. They sum up Captain Planet. You know, each one of them gets together and they sum up Captain Planet.
Oh, with their rings.
With their
yeah,
rings.
Okay.
Voltron, they're machines. They're almost like Transformers.
Okay.
They're like generic Transformers.
And when they come together, they are Voltron.
Yeah, they physically piece together.
Oh my goodness. Fun
Yep.
Kit Toys totally needs to make the Voltron.
Sounds like they already do. Well, I mean,
Well, yeah, but I'm
In
talking about
essence.
take every single one of them and figure out a way to attach them all together. And then that is Voltron. That's the Voltron family pack series.
There you go.
The Voltron.
the Voltron sex toy.
Yeah.
Maybe don't start with that one.
So what does Voltron do in this cartoon? Fights evil?
Yeah, pretty
It's
much.
good.
Yeah, Voltron's good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Who's the nemesis?
I can't remember.
All right.
Standard cartoon nemesis. Bad guys.
Wile E. Coyote.
Yes.
One of those.
One of those.
Keep doing your Kegels.
Yeah.
All
they feel
right.
great because I think I just got a hemorrhoid not too long ago. So
Oh, man.
helps keep them in there.
Added bonus.
Yeah.
Listening to Sexplanations podcast will take care of your hemorrhoids. Last 2 questions. 1, please talk to me more about polyamorous relationships and sex with 3 or more people. I need help.
Yeah, polyamory is a tough one. It takes a lot of It's hard. It takes a lot of communication, and people need to be on the same page, to keep that whole relationship ideal alive within themselves. It's common human instinct sometimes for that to, I think personally, for that to be a great ideal and something people want to pursue. And once they start pursuing it, it gets a little interesting and weighted on one side or the other. Some people get jealous, or they love the ideal of it. They love the, almost the equality of it. Or I like this and this person likes this, but my other friend doesn't like this. So I'm just going to get this from this person and,
Yeah.
get this from person B. And, what I've seen is that someone usually kind of feels like it's not as beneficial to them, or they feel like they're getting hurt or something. And to avoid that, I feel like, once again, it's hard to sometimes broach the subject, but super open, honest communication about it on both sides, even if you're the one who's getting, the one who feels that, or if you're not the one who feels that and you think everything's going fine and dandy and you're really into it, just, maybe you should be the one to, broach the subject or keep bringing it up and being
Right.
like, yeah, how is this working? Or do you really feel like is this everything you thought it was going to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly work. And
Relationships are work.
yeah, they're work. And now if you think of your traditional, 2 people in a relationship, that's just work for 2
Multiplication.
people. Yeah, and now you've got 3 or 4. That's that much more work, mathematically speaking. But it doesn't have, obviously doesn't have to be that way. But the potential sure is there. You're getting input from much more people.
No, I completely agree. I think it's such a difficult topic to just take on in a few minutes. And I always advise people to look at the books from authors that are doing it, that are making it happen, right? So you have Opening Up, and you have More Than Two, and The Ethical Slut, et cetera, right? All these texts that really delve into the troubleshooting of those conversations and those feelings, and how do we get into it, and how do we move out of it if it's not working?
Yeah, and you just reminded me, reestablish what your goal is of it, you know? So you want to be, so you're going to go into this poly relationship, you know, there's several reasons why people do it. You know, off the top of my head, one of them, you know, is, hey, I'm really into like kinky bondage type sex, you know, and your partner that you're talking with at that point is like, yeah, you know, like I am not into that. That does not, you know, I don't want that. So you're seeking this poly relationship to fulfill, you know, kind of a certain desire that you have.
Right.
And, you know, we all know any sort of sexual relation, you know, can lead to a whole lot more. So once you start breaching that, you know, you're like, oh, say, yeah, I'm falling in love with this person, or like, you know, I'm getting much more of an emotional relationship out of this now than I wanted, you know, which was my originally why, you know, what we were here for. I was only going poly to satisfy, you know, the straight up, you know, sexual urge or whatever.
So reassessing.
Just reassessing and keeping those in check, you know, like, yeah, you're, you know, I'm emotionally super in love with you, you know, but I have some other needs that I want to meet, and like, let's try this poly thing. And then if those guidelines or those reasons you sought out initially are changing, you should talk about them.
Talk with each other, people. Last question. Do you believe that it is better / healthier for somebody questioning to not find a title on the sexual spectrum, or to be open to all experiences regardless of sexual orientation or classification?
Yeah, I think there's no rush to put yourself in any of those classifications. So I would, you know, I think it is, you might as well, it's fine to be questioning. So I would say, yeah, I mean, it's certainly healthy to, you know, hold back and wait and just question and see. And I think it doesn't surprise me that these two questions are the same question. Don't think that any of your, you know, experimentation or your exploits out there are going to define you in any of those categories. Don't let that hold you back from those, you know, your experimentation or whatever you're doing.
Right. Well, and I think people want labels so that they can be part of a community, but I think you can have a sense of community. Go hang out with people who identify as lesbians. Go hang out with the queer kids. Do the community part and decide whether or not that feels right to you, with or without a label. I hope, at least, that people from those communities aren't going to be like, unless you call yourself a lesbian, you don't get to hang out with us. Right.
And there's certainly a label, you know. I mean, we were just talking about pansexuals. Like, there's certainly a label for hanging, you know, for any of that. Even if anyone who's open, you know, to these conversations or like these ideas that we're, you know, somewhat trying to like push forward or we're talking about, I don't think they're going to be, like you were saying, you can't hang out with us unless you are like straight up lesbian and that's it. You know?
Don't hang out with them then.
Yeah, don't hang out with them then. Yeah.
They don't sound very nice.
No. But yeah, I wouldn't be chomping at the bit to find a label. And you're not stuck with that label for life, even if you do find one.
Yeah, so true. So wise. Erik, you're brilliant. Thank you so much for being on the Sexplanations podcast. We have one more thing to do. You ready for it?
Yeah.
We need to come up with some Sextra Credit for them.
Oh, yeah, Sextra Credit.
Yeah.
Assignments are not always bad, so here's some Sextra Credit.
So something that they can do in between episodes to work on their own sexualities, identities, expression, etc.
All right. You don't have any of these queued up in your brain already?
Oh, I do. I can give endless homework. But what is something that has improved your own sexuality?
I mean, yeah, communication.
Okay.
You know, that's a huge one. That's always getting worked on.
So we could give them all of the questions. I'll put all of the questions in the comments. And then with another human being, sit down and go through the answers.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. Practice communicating
Practice
about
communicate. It's
sexuality.
kind of like a candid, general, be-all answer.
Yeah. Or we could have them go cross-country skiing.
Yeah, you could
Work
do that too.
Work your body.
Work your body.
Do all the things.
Do all the things.
Lots of
I know for me, I'm just like, I'm going to brush up on my terms and everything.
You are?
Because it's not,
Oh.
I'm going to say it's not a big deal to me because I'm kind of lazy, but, but it's the way I treat people, interact with them is like,
Important.
that's important. And that's the foundation of, whatever, my acceptance towards everyone, I would think. So it's not a big deal to me, I don't care what people are, or what they identify with, but being somewhat clueless sometimes about like what those actually mean, and they do mean a lot to other people more than they mean to me. Just the verbiage and the terminology means more to other people, so I'm going to learn more about them so I can correctly not sound like such an idiot or like insensitive, No one's going to know what your take is on it when you're candidly throwing around these terms and they're incorrect, but basically because you're lazy.
So you're going to work toward being a good citizen and part of the 50-year solution to have universal acceptance.
Sure. I feel like I'm already there in my mind, but there's certain other things that people find important.
Right. Well, because you could be accepting, but if you don't foster a language that you use to communicate with other individuals, then it's much more difficult to foster an environment of acceptance. And
that is something I myself can particularly work on. So that's my, what was it?
Your Sextra Credit.
Credit, yeah.
Sex credit. That's a great one.
Anyone else can feel free to do that too.
Yeah, let's get on this 50-year plan. I'm a big fan of this. Okay, well, Erik, you have been an awesome guest. I am so very grateful. Superb company, superb conversation, lots of wisdom. I hope we've all learned something. I also want to give a special thanks to Complexly for production, Cinema Studios. Kelly, your recording of this show and editing is so wonderful. And Count Boogie, thanks for the jingles. And Cora and Paro, I'm still learning.